what you said about Chris Paul, that, your guess is that they're going to try and, put some things together, Chris Paul being a small piece of that, and making a deal. That's all fine. That makes basketball sense, especially when the Clippers are as bad as they've been. For all the talk about how the Clippers were going to be a championship competitor this year, Bradley Beal's hurt, and freaking Kawhi never plays, and they're bad, okay?
Well, he's played this year, and they're bad, which is the crazy part. He's like the only one that's good.
Yeah, but they've played 21 games so far, and check me on this. Hasn't he missed like 10, or has he played in 10? So
I want to say he's played in more than that. I could be wrong.
He's at like half the games played. So you'll tell us if I'm right or I'm wrong here, but I think I'm pretty close. He's like played in like half the games, Kawhi. So my question is this, and this is what we didn't get the answer to, even though you were very clear. Why would you send Chris Paul home in the middle of the night? Like, why not just be respectful of his career?
Agreed. Yeah, we're in agreement there. Yeah, Kawhi's played 11 games. But yes, go ahead. So you're right. I'm with you. 100%. It's a terrible look.
That's what I'm trying to understand here is if you've got a guy who was a great player in your franchise history and you're bringing him home at the end of his career, and by the way, barely playing the guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Paul's barely playing. He's not contributing anywhere near like he had contributed in previous iterations.
Even last year in San Antonio, right?
Right. So like in San Antonio last year, I think the number was
he played every game.
He played 82 games a year ago.
And he played fairly well, I would say, especially for a guy who was, in his late 30s,
So you're bringing him home, essentially, right, to the franchise where he became a star, where he made his mark on the franchise. And I grant you, it's different owners, it's different coaches, it's different players, it's different staff. I will grant you that. But why would you do him like this? Why would you humiliate him?
It's terrible.
Especially when you're a 5-16 team. Oh, and by the way, not only are you bad, but George, this is the same organization that had all of this offseason controversy about whether or not the owner was manipulating money with a company that he invested in to pay Kawhi Leonard to sit on the bench.
Correct.
They conned me.
So what the hell would they do this to this kid for? And I say this kid, this is a grown man.
Right, kid to you, yes.
This is not a 21-year-old kid or a 25-year-old kid. This is a grown-ass man who, by the way, has not only been a decorated player for your organization and has been a great ambassador for the league, hasn't he also been deeply involved in, like, player issues? And
oh, yeah, he was the president of the Players Association.
Right. So why,
they
if you're the
called him
Clippers,
a legendary Clipper in this statement to ESPN and, like, praised him.
Why would they do him this way?
I don't understand it. I mean, again, unless they've got something brewing, and even then, I still feel like, even if you did have something brewing, like, it would need to have been done this morning. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would need to have been all done in one felt swoop, where I would be like, okay, I mean, it's still dirty, but I kind of get it if they end up landing like some superstar and he's part of like this larger deal. But the fact that you do this in the hopes, because that's what it is, it's in the hopes of aggregating a salary here or there to make moves to upgrade the roster. And look, it didn't help that Kawhi the other day. Do we have the audio of Kawhi the other day saying that they need better talent on the team? Did you see that or no?
Didn't see it, but
we
here's
will
what I would
effort
say.
it in moments.
Here's what I would say.
Yeah. This was, this was over the weekend.
Here's what I'd say to Kawhi. Oh, you need better talent? Really? Here's a concept. How about if you play? Because then if you play, guess what the Clippers have? Better talent on the floor.
Yeah.
Because you've had 21 games so far this year, and you just said he played in 11 of them. Is that right?
Correct.
So, hey, Kawhi, you've literally missed 50% of your team's games. Why is that? And so when you say the team needs better talent, aren't you like a found piece of talent? You're like a new free agent acquisition every time you take the floor because you only play half the games. And you want better talent?
Yeah.
Play.
Here was the issue too. They went and they tripled down on older guys. Like, they were one of the oldest teams in the league last year, okay? But they tripled down on that. And the problem was what they did was they did it with a guy in Bradley Beal, who, I like Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal, when healthy, is a good player, but the problem is when healthy has become the last 4 or 5 years almost now. And he's not old. He's in his early 30s. So to me, it's a risk, probably worth taking, because he was let go from Phoenix. It's not like you paid a lot for Bradley Beal, so it was a low risk move. But you were banking on someone who has not been available when you already have a guy, to your point earlier, who is not always available. And then that means you're putting an even larger burden on a 36, 37-year-old James Harden, who, by the way, played really well last year, deserved to be an all-NBA type player last year. But you're kind of trying to squeeze the last, bit of juice out of the fruit there. You know what I'm saying? Like with those guys, with him particularly.
Getting rid of Norman Powell was a huge
mistake. Oh, my God, a huge mistake. And you got rid of him for nothing.
For nothing. And that was a guy that can go out, get you a bucket, had a ton of energy.
The guy's getting 25 a night.
Yeah, no, he's a great player. So they went by names. So Kawhi, Harden, John Collins is a name, Ivica Zubac, Bogdan Bogdanovic is a name. Derek Jones
and John
Jr.
Collins,
name.
no offense to John Collins, I don't think he's even, he's probably been on a couple, but he's not like a guy who's been on a lot of winning teams.
No, his team would have been fired like 7 years ago, right?
Yeah, you put this team together 7 years ago. The name value
oh my God,
was amazing.
You're 100% right. If this team was 2018, they'd be the favorite to win the whole thing.
But I just can't figure out why. If a guy
you know why?
is, tell me.
Okay, but bigger picture to answer Greg's question. They felt, think about it last year, they were this close. They lost on what I would even call a fluky-ish kind of play, right? Their series against Denver turned on one of the most unprecedented plays we've ever seen in the history of the National Basketball Association.
The Aaron Gordon dunk, right?
With Aaron Gordon dunk, flipping the series. They would have been up 3-1. Instead, it's 2-2, going back to Denver, and it changed the complexion of their entire season, okay, on one crazy play. So they felt like, hey, we did a great job last year. We won 50-plus games. We were this close to beating what we think is one of the best top 2 teams in the sport, and we need to now double down, triple down on old guys, veteran guys who want to win a championship. That works, Kappy and Greg and Lindsay, when you already have a championship culture, right? Mike Trudell and I talk about this a lot, over the years, where when you've won a championship, you usually want to add guys, like veteran guys who have not won a championship but are like really desperate to win a championship, and you add those guys into the mix because it's good for the locker room, right? Because when guys generally go like, oh man, the doldrums of the regular season, blah, 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 and they're like tired. These guys, these veteran guys who are thirsty to win a championship.
Hungry, right.
They are like, no, bro, we got to keep pushing. You know what I'm saying? Like, they keep the locker room motivated. And the Clippers, they tried to do that kind of formula, except they didn't have guys that have won a championship for this team. You know what I'm saying? Like, Kawhi won a championship for San Antonio, surrounded by incredible talent. Kawhi literally willed the Raptors to a championship, which was a good team. That to me is his biggest feat, because they were a good team that couldn't get over the hump. He got him over the hump. However, he did get the benefit. And look, you won a championship. I'm not taking it away from you. But when you look back at those circumstances, I mean, KD got hurt right in the series. Clay got hurt in that series. So, yeah, like I just don't think, and you've said this a million times, Kappy, Kawhi is not the guy that can be the linchpin. He may be able to be your best actual player, but he can't be your leader linchpin kind of guy.
Nope. Doesn't have that kind of personality.
And I like James, but James, because James in the regular season, and I'll give that guy credit, man. He plays 82.
Yep.
You get your money's worth out of him. Yeah, he's had some struggles in the playoffs, but he's not a number one guy to win a championship. We've seen that. It has not played out even in his prime. So they made huge mistakes betting on older guys, thinking they were close, and it's completely backfired on them.
Yeah, listen, James Harden is a scorer. James Harden is not a championship leader. Okay? He's a great individual scorer, but he is not a put a team on his back, I will lead you to a championship caliber player. That's not his style. Okay? Right. Now, Kawhi Leonard, regardless of what his resume tells you, Kawhi Leonard is a great player, but Kawhi Leonard does not have a leadership personality. Right. And by the way, LeBron James has a leadership personality. Say what you want about LeBron, love him or hate him. LeBron has a leadership personality. Kawhi does not. And the worst part for Kawhi is that brother ain't never available. Right. But I cannot believe what they have done to Chris Paul. What they have done to Chris Paul is just so unprofessional.
It's a terrible look.
Could it be maybe they did it on purpose? Kind of stick it to him?
Like something had to have happened.
Right.
Well, I thought he made some comment.
They're in the middle of a road trip.
He made a comment. I'd have to look back and find it. But he made a comment recently about the team's struggles, and maybe that didn't sit well. But it's like, dude.
Maybe it was a Sicilian message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No. Yeah, but a Hall of Famer says something, that's not going to get you sent home in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. It's a weird deal over there right now.
Something seems wrong here.
Yeah. And they're, by the way, they are very sensitive right now over there. Very sensitive, I'm hearing.
Yeah, you think about what?
Is that because you could get into a game for $2 on a ticket?
Those that are just waking up or just getting in their car, Chris Paul was strangely sent home, and it looks like his days with the Clippers are done because, Lawrence Frank even put out a statement in the middle of the night that they are parting ways.
Can you just pause on that real quick, which is sent home? Sent home is different than released.
Correct, because they need his contract.
Right. So just that's where I kind of pause for a moment. I go, wait a second, hold on. Let me get this straight.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, you guys know that Chris Paul is not long for the Clippers organization.
Yeah.
And this retirement tour, if you will, isn't going anywhere because he's like on the bench, right?
Yeah.
He's not being celebrated everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get rid of him.
Although the most recent game in Charlotte, he was celebrated. Because remember, he played college ball there.
Right, right.
Not in Charlotte, but Wake Forest, which is only 90 minutes away.
Yeah. But if you're going to move him or move on from him, okay, fine, it happens, right? I mean, in pro sports, George, we've seen legends be moved from their teams.
No question.
Okay? So if you're going to move on from Chris Paul, that's fine. Nobody cares. But why send him home
in the middle of the night?
Imagine
send out a statement in the middle of the night, right?
Imagine he's in his hotel room sleeping. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, Chris, you got to pack and leave. What do you mean I got to pack and leave? Yeah, we're sending you home in the middle of the night. Are you releasing me? No. Then why'd you wake me up? Why do I have to go take a flight right now? And I know I might be exaggerating that he might not have been woken up and sent on a plane. Yeah. But instead, why in the middle of the night do you say, we're sending him home? If your game plan is to move on from him, it seems like they've gone out of their way, at least initial read, to humiliate him in some way.
So before the road trip, okay, Chris Paul posted a screenshot on Instagram of the Oxford English Dictionary definition of the word leeway. And the assumption was, or this suggesting that a lack of accountability was an issue with the Clippers. Okay? That was the way it was interpreted by many. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you that, based on, what did we start this conversation with? Well, what was the second thing we talked about with this organization in regards to leadership, right? Where did you start with? Who did you start with?
I start with Kawhi Leonard.
Correct. So for many years, there has been a feeling that, and it wasn't just Kawhi, it was even Paul George to some extent too, that those guys lived by different rules, okay? And I think a guy like Chris, for better or worse, he's always going to be honest. And sometimes it's for worse because his teammates have not always appreciated his honesty. Now, there have been a number of players that have appreciated his honesty. It's interesting with Chris Paul's career because when you talk to young guys who have played with Chris Paul or guys that were young when they played with Chris Paul, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander loves Chris Paul. Because remember, Chris Paul had a stint in Oklahoma City when Shai was traded there. And, Shai credits him with teaching him how to be a professional and teaching him the work ethic that he has. And even during his MVP speech, mentioned Chris Paul, right? Last year, the guys in San Antonio, those young guys, Wemby and Keldon Johnson and all these guys that were there, they credit Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, right, for being good vets, teaching them how how to be professionals, right?
But notice what you're saying. The young guys appreciated his professionalism and his leadership.
Right.
And the experienced guys, and a guy like Kawhi, who's a 2-time champion, that guy may not have appreciated his candor.
Yeah. So what I would say is, while I'm trying to like read tea leaves here and piecing things together, I'm guessing that him posting that on Instagram was probably not the first time that had been broached. Okay. I'm guessing that, knowing Chris, maybe something like that was presented in the locker room and in a larger setting, and then that particular post went up on his Instagram, and that probably set some people off after whatever probably transpired in person, and that may or may not have something to do with this. And if I had to guess, I am literally guessing here that whoever it was, Kawhi or James Harden, or, I don't want to put it on James, to be honest with you, or whoever it was, right? Or Kawhi even, for that matter. But I'm guessing whoever was at the top of the food chain did not appreciate whatever transpired between Chris in the locker room, and certainly not that Instagram post. And what happens is, when you're at this stage of your career and you're playing 14 minutes a night when you do play,
and you're on a 5
even though you are a
team,
legend of the organization, you're sent packing.
Yeah. Well, you're on a bad team, and you may be pissing off their top star. And even though Kawhi Leonard is really only half of your top star, because he only plays in half the games, he is still the guy that you're counting on. And the thing about Kawhi Leonard is, and this was the miscalculation by the Clippers, you know what their miscalculation was, George? That Kawhi Leonard wanted to come home. He wanted to be back in Southern California, where he grew up. He went to high school, played his college basketball. He wanted to come home to Southern California. You know what he's done since he's come home? He's essentially gone into retirement mode. And I'm not joking here. Like, Kawhi Leonard is a great player. We all get it. But let's be honest about it. Kawhi Leonard is never available. And it's always a problem. And whether it's legit injury or it's load management or he doesn't feel like playing, he doesn't take the same sort of criticism that a guy like others have taken along the way. Kyrie Irving, for many, many years, I mean, he's kind of put his life and his career back together again in Dallas. But you remember Kyrie during COVID and people and how they talked about Kyrie. Nobody talks about Kawhi like that.
Yeah.
He's quiet. He's under the radar. He seems likable. All those things can be true. But by the same token, this dude does not want to go out there and give you 120% in pursuit of a championship. Because you know why, George? I'm going to tell you why. Because he's satisfied.
Well,
and you know why he's satisfied? Because he's got 2 championship rings. He's got generational wealth. He's got Hall of Fame credentials. And he's home. Kawhi Leonard is satisfied.
And he's got trees.
They conned me.
So what I would say is the only year he played the majority of the games was the COVID year. And he also had several months off in between. They ended up, I think, playing like 65, 66 games, somewhere in that range. And he played 57 of them. But, yeah, that's kind of it. Like, if you're the Clippers, you have not gotten your money's worth from Kawhi Leonard at all. And you gave him another contract. And you're also being investigated over a scandal over him. I would say that the Clippers, I understand them at the time. I mean, because think about it. 2019, he's coming off winning a championship. He's won his second finals MVP. Like, I get them thinking, like, oh, this guy can be our best player and can lead us to a championship. He's done it with 2 other teams, except the leading us part.
Yes,
he could be the best player.
Right.
But he couldn't lead you.
Yes.
And I think that they were hoping with Paul George that would be the case. But here's the thing about Paul George. And I love Paul George too. But Paul George is very much he was an excellent player for many, many years, okay? Paul George is not that guy either. He's not the take the, reins of a team kind of guy. He is a guy who is well liked in the locker room because he's a nice guy. And he likes, he's very helpful to young guys. He's respectful to veterans. Like, he's incredibly polite, like, as a human being. But the problem is that you need one of those guys in that equation to be the guy that's like, hey, I'm taking control here, right? Like, when things go sideways, there needs to be someone that takes control. And if you look at the previous Clippers iteration, Chris was that guy The problem is, he was almost a little too big of a personality for guys like Blake and even DeAndre at times to handle, right? He was almost too honest for those guys in some cases. So it's just they've done a bad job of a chemistry experiment in their 2 iterations of teams that were considered championship worthy.
Chris Paul is an adult. Chris Paul is a professional. Chris Paul finds himself at this stage of his career older than a lot of his teammates. And when you have been as good as Chris Paul has been in his career, when you've been as influential in the league and for the players as Chris Paul has been in his career, to me, you've earned the right to be a veteran leader, grown-up candidate in the locker room.
Yeah,
and when you come back to the Clippers because you plan on finishing your career here and you plan on pursuing a championship and you analyze the situation and you go, this guy's a great scorer but not a champion. This guy's a great player and has a great resume, but barely ever plays. Oh, and by the way, him, his uncle, they've gotten this entire organization caught up into a crazy-ass controversy